Wonderful, thanks. So our first case study presentation will be by Dr. Eleni Galanis. She's going to focus on cyanobacteria in recreational water.
Thanks, Craig. You managed to depress me now. Craig and I met earlier this morning, and he was already depressed, and I wasn't, but I am now. I'm going to be presenting a short case study on cyanobacteria and dog fatalities related to a Vancouver Island lake. Now, the caveat is that I have nothing to do with this situation, and I don't know anything about it personally. The people whom we had invited to present on this could not make it today, so I want to acknowledge that they are the ones who have been working on this situation and have provided me with the information to build this short case study. So thanks to Paul, Shannon, Stacy, and Jennifer at Island Health. So cyanobacteria are also known as blue-green algae, but they are not algae. They're actually unicellular aquatic bacteria that can grow. They live in mostly, the ones that we're going to be talking about today, in fresh water. And under certain conditions, they can form blooms or grow into large pigmented colonies. They produce pigments, which is why we can see them with the naked eye. They're often blue-green in color. They also produce toxins. Some of these produce toxins which can be harmful to animals and humans, and they're often known as harmful algal blooms. So the way they produce illness is through skin contact with the algae themselves, or the cyanobacteria, through ingestion, inadvertent ingestion of the water, or plants or fish that may have been contaminated, as well as through inhalation potentially of some of this material. And in humans, often the disease is mild and can be limited to a skin rash, but people who ingest this may have gastrointestinal symptoms like vomiting and diarrhea, and in severe cases can have neurological damage or pneumonia through inhalation. In animals, animals can present with a variety of signs, including excessive salivation, weakness, staggered walking, diarrhea, difficulty breathing, convulsions, liver damage, and death. And this can be extremely rapid in animals, particularly in dogs. So within a few hours to a few days of exposure, death can occur. So why are these related to climate change? It's because cyanobacteria, their growth is supported by warmer temperatures and by the presence of nutrients and light. And these nutrients are usually brought in by organic material into freshwater sources, but it's the nitrogen and the phosphorus from these organic materials that can lead to the growth of these bacteria and the formation of blooms. So the case that we're looking at today is Quamichan Lake, which is a small island, a 3 square kilometer lake in central Vancouver. That is a shallow lake, 7 meters deep at its deepest. And this lake has had cyanobacteria blooms since the 1950s. So not a new occurrence by any stretch of the imagination, but those blooms initially back in the 50s would last a couple of weeks in the summer, in the heat of the summer, and then would go away. Now, in the last few years, they tend to start in the spring and last throughout the summer all the way into the fall. And part of the reason why this lake is at risk is because there used to be intensive agricultural activity in the area, and now intensive residential activity with construction of new developments and a lot of lakefront homes developed in that area. The private testing has found that the levels of phosphorus in the lake have increased over the last decade or so, and there have been toxins that are caused by these cyanobacteria found in the lake, both mycocystin and anatoxin, which do lead to human and animal illness. So these reports are somewhat anecdotal. The folks at Island Health had not verified this information with the vets, but there have been a number of canine cases reported by their owners as having been due to cyanobacteria, and all 4 of these recent cases have led to deaths in these pet dogs. In 2016, the Cowichan Valley Citizen interviewed one of the owners of one of the fatal cases, who said that she lives on the lake and lost her 6-year-old border collie, that's that dog in the picture, after he only dipped his legs in the water on October 11th. The client said that her dog came out of the water with fluorescent green algae on his legs that he may have licked at and ingested before she removed the substance with a thorough cleaning in the tub. She also said that the dog then started throwing up that night and went into seizures the next day before he finally died. And she said her vet determined the cause of death to be liver damage, and later on in the article it goes on to say that, that the vet believed this was due to cyanobacteria. Now, in terms of human concerns, there have been no reported illnesses in humans associated with exposure to cyanobacteria in this lake. The lake is actually privately owned, in quotations, by a lumber company, and it's not used as drinking water or for swimming. There is no public access to this beach, only small private paths that lead to the beach. But it is used by dogs that drink the water and or swim in it, and it's used as a paddling training center. And in this last year, there have been efforts by the community to have it designated as an official Canadian training center. And this application requires knowledge and control of water quality. So it's come up in various ways for both the civil society as well as the people who live there. So what has been the response to date? Well, there have been multiple complaints about the visible blooms and the canine deaths to Island Health, but Island Health, the response to date for this particular lake has been that it's really not under public health jurisdiction, given that the lake is not used as drinking water or for swimming. And they do have multiple other lakes that they are looking into for cyanobacteria, which are used either for drinking water or swimming, and there public health has a clear mandate to act and to either try and mitigate the risk or at least educate the population. So given the high level of civil concern about this situation, the municipality of North Cowichan has taken it upon themselves to conduct public education, to have website advisories when blooms occur, and to post signs at lake access points to warn the population that there is a risk for their pets as well as for themselves. In 2016, a task force was formed by concerned citizens, and they hired a contractor and put out a report in 2017 that looked at the causes and potential solutions for these ongoing cyanobacteria in the lake. And they acknowledged the role of both increasing temperatures and precipitation bringing in nutrients into the lake, as well as the human impact on the land. And they recommended various strategies to decrease nutrients in the lake, including both decreasing the entry of nutrients into the lake, as well as actions that can be taken to remove phosphorus or the blooms themselves from the lake. And I think that the report is actually going to be available to us as we go through the various discussion tables, so I won't go into greater detail as I'm not an expert in these mechanisms. We were asked also to touch upon outcome. There hasn't been an outcome, this is an ongoing issue, but Island Health told me that they have been seeing an increasing number of cyanobacteria complaints in an increasing number of lakes and for extended periods of time. And so in 2018, just recently in fact, the BC government put out cyanobacteria guidelines to help guide our response to this, particularly with respect to water bodies that are used for drinking water or swimming. But there is no recommendation for water that's being used for non-contact activities, so that remains a gap. So I'll just leave you with this thought. This is obviously a problem that's ongoing and that has currently no permanent solution. But the task force report did end on a positive note or encouraging words and says that the algae and cyanobacteria in the lake is a symptom of human development and habitation getting ahead of the ability of our environment to absorb the resulting runoff of nutrient. There's no silver bullet that reverses decades of neglect, but concerted, persistent action so that collaboration can start a trajectory of improvement. So hopefully our discussion will lead to some of those ideas. Great.